That's all.
If they just have a clerk in the transportation, or like how it's gonna work with that.
I just want everybody to hear what we're talking about.
Well, we
This is
have
part of the
one, right?
A clerk?
We have a temp in there with a salary right now.
No, don't we have a, we have a position in there?
It's in the budget.
Not the superintendent. I'm not talking superintendent.
The bus clerk,
I'm trying to think of where it is on the functions.
Hey Dave, what percentage rate would you be comfortable on?
Going as low as.
I don't feel comfortable taking so much money out of the unassigned fund balance because that just kicks the can down the road. And
Sure.
eventually we need to somehow shift the revenue side onto the tax basis.
Right.
And I think at the budget committee, when we met and we ran through the 7%, even at 7%, we're still the lowest by, I don't remember if you remember, but I mean, we're still the lowest by quite a bit.
I think it's gonna take us a while, that was my point, it's gonna take us a while to, and if everybody's going up, right, we might not catch up.
Cause all those years we did 0.5 or
Right.
1.
Right,
I mean, if
They
we
did
just
it.
on 2% all those years, it adds up to a lot of money. I did
I
all
know.
that stuff last year.
and I don't disagree, I just think that it's hard, like, we can't right the ship in 1 year, right? So that's where I'm coming from, even if we did 4 or 5% over the next 5 years, it's gonna help us, and that's, I shudder to say that, because that's a big tax increase when you look at over time.
If you do 5%, you're still looking at 1.2 or whatever it is out of the unassigned fund balance. So next year,
Put that-
we're looking at taking that same amount out of the unassigned fund balance just to get to zero.
So, okay, so I hear you, so then, does something else have to come off of there? So that's what I'm asking, like, I think it's all important, but if you're not comfortable taking more out of the fund balance, and I'm not comfortable going very high on the taxes, what more could we possibly wait a year and have to start working back toward? Or a more creative way of getting to this, to what's on there? You know, before my current position that I'm in now, I was 100% funded on soft money. I couldn't just go out and say, this is, you know, I would put in a proposal, multiple proposals with my budget, and then I would get funded or not. There were some years where some of my proposals weren't funded. But when they would fund it at like 70% or something. I had to go back and tighten my budget up and cut back on how much time I was gonna spend on the project, like travel that I might do. So I had to then figure out what I wasn't gonna do. I don't feel comfortable just making that, bridging that gap with, like, I wanna see more of a balanced approach between the tax increase, and I'm hearing you, and I'm trying to find where that sweet spot is about what we use out of the, you know, fund balance versus what we ask for. And then be transparent with the community about why we're doing what we're doing.
Well, another thing to consider is you made the comment about paying our teachers more.
Right,
Which I agree with. Well, if we have that 5 million and we take 1.2 or 1.3 million, and we have a couple $100,000 that we can put into there, then the next year we have less, and we're gonna have to take at least that much,
right.
okay? At the same time, if anybody knows, we approved a $15 million capital, or the capital reserve, or whatever it's called, up to 15 million. So where are we getting money to put into that?
I don't know. Wait, what do you mean? I thought we already have that.
No.
We have a small reserve transfer, but Dave's point is, if you make it so thin that you don't generate a surplus, you're not gonna fund reserves anymore.
Can we ask the one question over here that we have about the transportation? So in this current year's school budget, there's a salary for a transportation supervisor, and the next line is transportation clerical salary. So do we need both of those people in the future?
How much is the clerical stuff?
Without benefits, it's $57,000. $57,000 clerical
guess.
salary?
Cause he was a dispatcher. So that would be what I would guess. At that amount, that's my guess.
So then Dave, back to your question, then maybe another thing that we have to, where we could be a little bit more conservative is just give one elementary teaching position instead of two. You know what I mean? Like, so how do we get there?
Well,
How do we
we've
graduate?
We've already voted on and approved that.
We can vote to change it, can't we?
Okay, well, if we can't, then I don't know, then we have to take.
What's our goal?
I think for as many of us as possible to feel good about the decision that we come to. And I would like to, we could all go around the room, I was gonna do this and I guess we forgot, to figure out where people are comfortable, where their kind of comfort zone is around the tax increase. And then try to get, so that everybody, compromising is compromising, right? And I'm not disagreeing with these things being helpful to our students. I want this to remain a place where, every student can get the best education that they can, and for our teachers to all be like super jazzed about working here. People wanna come here and work here and stay here, right? So that's my goal.
So if we add all these positions this year,
Right.
and we do a low tax rate, and next year we say, you know what, we can't do this, we can't do this, we can't do this.
I'm not asking for a low.
I'm just saying,
Sure.
hypothetically, we have to cut these things because next year we can't afford them. What kind of message does that send to your staff?
Sure. I still think that the people that I've talked to, and I don't have any friends, who said, I can't see my friends. I didn't talk to friends, but I talked to people, and 7 is high.
0 and 0.5.
I know, but we
It's way
can't
low.
change.
No one's saying
we
we
What
don't
I'm-
wanna do
change
that.
what I'm
right?
saying
No one
is-
says that.
On our revenue side, we have to make an attempt.
We are, 5 is an attempt.
We have to make an attempt to get that revenue number. Because what do we do if a year from now, our governor says, I'm gonna do this over the next 5 years,
Right.
and it ends up in the next 5 years, we're gonna lose, what was it, 2 million last year she was gonna cut from us? Okay, so we're gonna lose 400,000 each year for the next 5 years. What are we gonna do?
I don't know.
We're
But I
gonna put
trust-
the for sale sign out front and,
You know what,
and
though?
do a merge.
But I trust that when we're put in a difficult position, that we can figure out how to fix it when we're in that position. So right now, we're like building this incredible nest egg for something that might never happen. So what I would rather do is be, I still think that 5's a big ask, because it's not 2 more than last year, it's 5 more than last year. So that's still a lot. And I think that, this is like the climate change debate, right? Some people think that the world is gonna end. Other people think that we will always be fine, because no matter what happens, not saying that climate change isn't real, but that we'll be fine because we're so smart and good at or coming up with solutions for things that we'll always figure out a way to be okay. So last year, we thought that the governor, like the foundation aid wasn't gonna come through, right? And we did what we did. Well, now we're gonna have extra, and I think, according to Janet, I hate to call people out because I don't understand it that much, we didn't touch what we had reserved for that was earmarked from the appropriated fund. So here we did, we went and we raised the tax to 2%, and we never used the line item that was from the appropriated fund. So all I'm saying is
Can I say one quick thing?
Sure.
So Loretta made the comment that we purposely kept the money in the unassigned fund balance because we didn't know what was gonna happen with the state.
Right.
What would everybody's opinion be if right now, in the unassigned fund balance, we had, 1.5 million, and we had, the rest of that money was in reserves, in the capital reserve, and it had already been moved and we couldn't touch it? Then what would your opinion be? We're gonna cut stuff?
Dave, but that's not.
I'm asking, cause tomorrow we could move $3 million from the unassigned fund balance to that new capital reserve.
But nobody's
Why
asking for
would we
$3
do that?
million.
I'm just saying, if we had done that over the past, am I thinking about this right? You understand this
Because
as
you're
good as
being
anybody.
very extreme.
He's just being a long-term thinker. I think your frustration comes from the fact that we need to find a new baseline for a tax levy to shift the burden. But we can't, it's not gonna happen at 3%.
Right,
But
But no one
nobody's
said
proposing
3%.
but there's a lot
Oh, I
between
know.
3
We're
and
voting
7.
on 5.5,
Yeah.
and what,
Five.
I mean, you make a big distinction between 5.5 and 7. Because you wouldn't vote for 5.5 to
Listen,
get it
before you
done.
keep looking at what that difference is and how many times people can go to Starbucks, I think just hypothetically though, the difference between 5 and 7 sounds scary to a lot of people, right?
You know what sounds scary to me? You know what sounds scary to me?
Apparently not putting
Hiring
that
good
shit
teachers
ton of
and
money.
having good teachers leave because they don't see us being in a good financial position long-term.
Right, but
We're
I
in a-
hope that
we're-
they're also listening to the fact that we are trying to get there with them, and we're trying to do it and take everybody into consideration. We did not, it takes, what's the saying? How many years into the woods or whatever the thing is, and it takes that long to get out? Like, I don't think we can fix this problem in one budget cycle.
Well, and you guys don't think we can fix it in one budget cycle, because your fix isn't going to do that, your proposal.
No, that's why I'm here.
You're
Our fix is we
taking
got
it,
another $1 million worth of positions to add up there.
the,
Next time.
yeah, so
Your solution of just adding is not helping right now any either.
I'm talking about programs for kids.
So am I.
Well, I'm not talking, you guys are talking about budget. I've heard one of you say here anything about 7%, 5%.
you
this,
certainly
but
heard me.
No,
What are we talking about?
100% I
for
said,
kids?
we're talking about kids.
Okay, smaller classrooms, 3 teachers in elementary school and a curriculum coordinator to address reading. That's what we recommended.
Go run for the board in Skinny Atlas where they don't have a problem with the budget.
I'm talking
This is,
here.
I know.
Have you asked for 10%? Have you asked the community what they would support?
No, we were going to, and you said that we shouldn't ask that, because you said it was a
No.
stupid question.
I said, no, I'm with a budget. You don't ask somebody beforehand. You think your budget's too high? You're gonna get oh, no, you should raise it?
I
I'm
don't
talking
think
about presenting a
10%.
budget for 7% and ask the community and explain where all these things are and why we need them, okay? And if the board doesn't think we need a curriculum coordinator, which we don't, we just took out, then explain the rest of these positions to the community. And they say yes, boom, and we're done. If they say no, we come back and
And then we
take
have
them
a
out.
contingency.
take
So
them
I
out.
think the real
You
thing
don't have to
with,
go to a contingent, you go second, vote, and then contingent.
Is
Ask the
there enough
community
time?
what they wanna support.
but I think the thing we're debating is whether we want 5%, 7%, or what we wanna take out of the savings account. And the problem is that the savings account becomes the issue. If we go out there with 7 or 10% with a big savings account, that's when the community bucks the system, because they know that.
It's not a savings.
I understand.
Rob, this is how I use this analogy, and I used it with Janet, or Rachel the other day. If my child applies to college, and I say I have $5 million in my bank account, please give me financial aid, I don't wanna use my bank account. That's what the public thinks that we're doing to them.
We'll explain to them what we have then. It's not a bank account.
Well,
They don't see it
that's-
any
They don't
other way.
see it that way.
They don't
They
see
think
it.
we're sitting on $5
That's how it comes
million,
across,
but
because
Then they
asking
vote
them
our,
for more.
then they vote our request down.
when
Or we
when
could just do something
a
more
couple years
reasonable.
back, it went out in the community that we were at 20% or whatever, when we're only supposed to be at 4%, what do you think the community said? Everybody's managing the money wrong, they got our money and they're sitting on it up there.
Because they
That's
think-
what they said. They didn't say, oh, well, it's just because we saved on this program, we did that, we moved around. They don't see that. They say, oh, why you got 20% when the state says you only can have 4%?
Because then it looks
That's what
like
they hear.
the school board knows better what to do with their money than the taxpayers.
And that's the problem.
That's the
That's why they
message we're
elected us.
sending.
That's why they elected us.
I don't think that about the taxpayers in this community.
Well,
I don't think
that's
that
the
I'm
way the
any,
game is supposed to be played.
anybody on this board is any
I have to
smarter or
ask you a
better than
question.
anyone in
What
the
are you willing to do to compromise here? Because if Rob is
Go
not gonna
ahead.
budge on 7, like, I think that it's gonna be a
We
long.
take the 358,000 minus the 115,000, you got 240,000, wherever the hell the number is. You gotta have 3% just to cover that cost.
Okay.
So for me, the 7%,
So you're
3%
stuck at
covers,
7. Well, I'm asking.
I'm explaining.
Okay.
3% of, I had it at 4.75 would cover what we had recommended, which was the 358. Going at 7% gives you the 2.25 that would help bridge the gap of getting long-term getting our revenue from aid to the tax base.
So you're.
So you
you're
wanna
saying
ask
it's
for more
separate.
than, do I understand it correctly, but you think that we should ask for more than we need?
Yes. I mean, is that what you're saying? Asking for more than we need, so we have
I'm
money to
saying
provide?
that we transition where our revenue comes from, because I think long
I think
term,
we can do that at 5%. It's just gonna take a year or two longer to get there. And if the governor can't hold her promise about taking care of the schools because, you know, she's fighting against the administration's gonna push back against her, then we come up with a different, you know, a plan to tackle that when that happens.
I just think we voted on adding the 200 and whatever the number is now. And how are we gonna pay for that?
Plus,
Plus, we need to,
plus
we
we
need
need
long
the three,
term.
we already got 3%.
We need long-term, we have,
We need
we're gonna have
long-term.
a new superintendent starting, don't you think that like, some of this long-term planning is,
Long-term planning could be taking 2 million from our unassigned fund balance, and putting it in the new capital reserve tomorrow. And that, to me, long-term is a good thing for the taxpayers, because that is gonna build interest in, when we do the next capital project, it will have zero impact on the taxpayers.
And zero
So,
impact on
isn't
our
it building
students'
the same
education.
interest? Why isn't it building the same interest today in the unassigned fund? Why does it have to go to capital to build that interest?
I'm just saying, long-term, if we have reserves for those things, we have to have the money from somewhere to put into those
you
reserves.
can't, I thought that once it's in reserves, it can't go toward.
There's
Can't.
certain reserves
Education.
you can't touch.
If it goes out of the unassigned, if
Capital
it's in there, you can't take it out unless it's for that purpose.
I'm good with the 5.5, if you wanted to go around the room. So five, you know.
Well, so if you're both at 7,
5.5, I'm there.
we're still at 7?
My opinion is we have a budget committee. The budget committee's recommendation was 7%, and as a member of the budget committee, I am going to stick by the committee's recommendation,
Okay.
which we came to
So
after
even
the
though
three of
we're
us
trying
met
to
with Patrick.
negotiate, you're not willing to negotiate, that's what I'm
I'm
hearing.
fine if it's a 4-3 vote, I don't,
So I have talked with people that said it's not a good look for the board to be doing 4-3 votes. It doesn't look good to the community and doesn't look good to potential people that are considering getting jobs here. That's just what I've been told. So if you guys don't agree, then, you know, again,
So you're saying that I have to agree with you so that it's a 7-0 vote?
no, but I think that we can negotiate.
Yeah, I disagree on that. I mean, I think it's a worse look when it's always a 7-0 vote. I don't think that looks good.
I don't think
because
we've
there's
ever,
no-
I don't think we've ever done that.
Well, you're saying, just, you're giving the, you know, like 4-3, I've seen a lot of 7-0 votes on stuff in the past, and I don't think that's always great.
But
Just
I
my
don't think
opinion.
that's what we did on the budget last year, was it?
I'm saying, I didn't say last year.
I mean,
In the past.
consent agenda stuff, it really should be 7-0 stuff. I think that this is something where, and I do a lot with like leadership training and like teams and stuff like that. It's better for people to figure out what they can compromise and what they can negotiate with one another than for somebody to just,
Nobody's
you know,
saying
have
we're
a
not
word.
negotiating. We are negotiating here.
How is that negotiating if you're saying that you're not willing to change where you're at? It's not negotiating.
Negotiations would be coming to the table and having a discussion what you disagree on. Just because we don't come to an agreement.
I don't know if that's the definition of negotiating. And I don't like
So
compromise.
let's
Maybe the word, maybe I'm using the wrong word.
Let's just
compromise.
leave it that everybody needs to vote through their conscience and go with their best intentions. And I mean, we all want the same thing, so.
And I'm not voting for 7%. I'm voting for a curriculum coordinator. I'm voting for that list that adds up to
Curriculum coordinator's
$376,000.
gone.
Okay, we need to do this another time, it's not gonna happen. So let's just wrap
What do you
it
mean
up.
it's not
I
gonna
think we
happen?
can-
I am not gonna vote for anything other than 7%.
Okay, so we're not gonna come to an agreement tonight, so we might as well
So
go home.
vote, you give them 5
I make a
if that's what
proposal
you
that
guys
we
want.
consider 4.5%, I'll go up to 4.5%. I'll even go up to 4.75. we just make our budget. Make a proposal of 4.75.
I think we ought to stick with Patrick's recommendations for 5, that's 2% over the 3. That's a gradual.
It's more than 3% over our cap.
Can you explain it to me again? Patrick's proposal of 5?
Well, Patrick suggested 5%, recommended 5%, in using that number, because we're not gonna come to terms on 7. Dave said 240, 3%, add 2, you're building it slow, you're not building it as big as we wanna build it. And I think that one will sell to everybody
The 5.
eventually, 5%.
With everything we agreed on previously.
Right.
So 5% with the 1.3.
I don't think we wanna go out to the community and get one vote down and another vote down, and then we don't wanna do that, we don't wanna do it, and I think
I still think 5% is a lot to ask of people. I think something that said 4 point something would be a lot easier to sell. It's just my opinion.
Sure, no, I agree.
I think
Right.
4.75 or 4.5 is gonna sell a lot easier than 5.
5's my upper.
Mine too. So I would be more inclined to go to 4. I think it's gonna sell a lot easier than 5.
I mean, I could compromise and do 5.5
You
if I
need,
had to.
you need to understand another piece, if I could add it here. When a board makes a decision, 4 to 3, that's the decision. The 3 people that didn't vote for it are mandated to get behind it because it's a board decision.
Check your tone.
So why do you need, well, you made a bunch of comments about me earlier, my friend, and that didn't sit too well with me. So, all I'm saying is, there's a process, and the people that don't vote for it, the issue on the school board, or any board, is you get behind it. So if you guys vote for 5%, I'm behind it. I got the rationale to vote for 5%. Is it what I agreed for? No.
Right.
I appreciate that.
So,
I know.
but that's the decision, guys. If you
I'm just
want
telling
5,
you
vote
that.
for it.
I'm just telling you that.
I'll get behind it,
Better
because that's what the board
teams,
voted for.
more effective teams figure out how to collaborate and work with one another better. So,
All right, Rachel, let's just make a proposal and vote on it. I
I
make a
vote
proposal
for-
for 4.5.
I vote for 5 or 5.25. How's that?
I thought we just.
Janet, do you want 5?
You gotta have a motion.
I'm asking where we're at.
So,
Probably easier
I make-
to just make it.
I'd like I make a motion for 4.5.
There's to be higher than 4.5.
I think 4.5 is a lot easier to sell
I
than
know,
5.
but I think we
Rachel,
go.
it's just easier to vote and then.
4.75.
4.7, okay.
I'll go for that.
Might as well make like a gallon of gas, $4.99 if you're gonna do that.
I make a proposal for 4.75.
Somebody want a second for that?
That was a proposal, not a motion. You need a motion, Heather?
Yes, I make a motion for tax levy of 4.7.
Second.
So moved.
Discussion.
Will you second?
Oh, so she makes the motion, you
Second.
second.
Okay,
sorry,
perfect,
sorry.
perfect.
You make a motion, somebody says,
Yeah, it's on the floor, discussion.
any discussion?
We've discussed it for a long time, so if we need to vote.
All those in favor of 4.75 tax increase? Or you wanna go higher, Janet?
Did you gotta vote this
We
way?
You gotta vote, you gotta take the vote, you can't talk,
We
so.
keep-
Can you vote more than once if it goes up again?
You got 3
Yes.
votes. Who's against?
All those against?
And what I was going to say during discussion, I'd like to get, over.
5. So I make a motion to, at 5.25.
Second.
Right? All those in favor of 5.25? Now you second me, you're not gonna vote for it?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yes, I am.
Alright.
Very observant of you.
All those opposed? I just want you to know that you're gonna end up with 7 this year.
Well, what about 5? Meet in the middle.
Okay. I make a motion for a tax increase of 5%.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Janet, will you make a motion because of.
What do you want, Janet?
They're
We
not
gotta
gonna
finish the
vote.
vote, we gotta finish the
All those
vote.
opposed?
I voted for 525. I really would go to 55, like I said.
Well, these guys are
I mean,
staying at
I
7,
think-
so we have
I
to
mean,
find
I'd rather get a
something.
budget than nothing, you know, than, you know.
I would vote yes for 5-5.
Okay.
I will vote no for 5-5.
I make a motion.
Difference between 5 and 5.5
I know,
is
it's a Starbucks.
$43,000 of revenue.
Right.
Everybody
It's-
wants to get caught up on that.
You guys laughing, it really is off-putting to me.
I
What-
coughed.
Okay, excuse me. I apologize then, it looked like you were laughing at me
It's-
because I've seen some of that going on here. So,
Rachel, you called us kindergartners when you looked at us earlier in the meeting, so.
I think I was talking to them. I said we were all acting like kindergartners. I've had people contact me and say that we should all rewatch the video last time because it was embarrassing. So how do you
I don't
propose
care.
that we fix this?
I'm saying 1% is $86,000. So the
know.
difference between
It
5 and
sounds
5 and a quarter.
bad, though, to the community is what I'm saying.
Let's let the community decide. Let the community decide. If it sounds bad, then they'll vote it down.
But I don't think enough of them voted down, and then like it's just, you know,
I mean, at some point, we have to let the community decide. Maybe you're wrong on that. Maybe everybody thinks that, okay, if we do as good a job as possible to sell and explain how much it's gonna cost each individual, each family, a $200,000 house, a $500,000 house, then maybe they'll say, okay, $20 a month. It's gonna be less than that because 7% was $20 a
So-
month. Let me finish, if I could finish.
please.
If we sell to them, get as many to the meeting as possible and say 5.5% would be roughly $15 a month, just a wild guess, probably pretty close. Maybe they'll say, you know what, I can handle $15 a month.
So
Maybe
what-
they will,
Sure.
and maybe they
Right.
won't.
So what about the people, like I told you, my electric bill was almost about $900, it was $800. So what about the people who are living paycheck to paycheck? Their cost of food's going up, their utilities are going up, we're gonna be in another, like, we're inflation like crazy. So it's just one more thing for them.
I'm not disagreeing with any of that, I totally agree with you, and I think that's
But
something
when
that
we
the
can be a
community.
little more conservative with the fund balance and take those things into consideration. So it looks like we're being thoughtful about the majority of the people who make up our community.
I'm not disagreeing with you, that's the way I feel about, what I said, 5.5%, let the community decide.
70% of our community is 400 and under 400 assessed. I can get you the number 300, 200, whatever it is you want. But 70.25% of our taxpayers, their assessed valuation is under 400. If that helps you at all with your decision of the community and who you're impacting.
I don't know, can you explain it to me, cause I don't know what you
I don't
mean.
understand.
70% is under 400,000.
But just, does that mean that they're happy about it or not happy about it?
That's their total
That's their
value.
assessment.
I know,
That's
I
what
know
their
that,
house is
but
worth.
I don't understand what your point
That's what their
is.
property
And then-
is, and that's how school taxes are based.
And then if you compare that to roughly $11.80, say $11.70.
I know the math, I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
What are you telling me? Like, what is the significance
It
of
would
that?
roughly be $15 a month, which we,
So we're deciding for them whether or not that's what,
No.
okay, I guess it's
no,
not my
we're not
business.
deciding. No,
Okay.
no, they're gonna
That's what we're
decide. The
So
community
I
will
ask
decide.
the rest of you to figure out how to wrap this meeting up.
Is there a motion on the floor? I
No.
lost track of that, no.
Okay, I make the motion that we
ability to just
Heather,
tighten it up.
I know, I think we just, nobody here supports that.
Okay. I just thought it was
Right.
a different way of looking at the same
Right. I think
problem
that
and then maybe a different solution.
I agree, but nobody else wants to acknowledge that here, and I think you're just gonna upset more people by going back to that.
I second Jan's.
When you're building a budget in April for July 1 of 25 through June 30th of 26, you have to go based on the past, but you also have to make assumptions. And I think we met as a committee last week and we went through the year-to-date that Rob had requested, and we looked at all the things that Loretta had raised, and in my opinion, all made sense. Now, are there things in there that you might think are not tight? Possibly, but things can change.
I'm fine with that,
So,
I'm okay with that.
so when you're in April and you're trying to look at July 1 through June 30th, you have to make all these assumptions, and
Right.
and yeah, it's easy to say today, oh well, geez, we haven't been very tight the last 5 years in our budget, but so many things have happened. The COVID, the interest rates went up, that had a huge impact. But if you look before that, the interest rate was always like 0.0 something percent. I remember Bruce Kopp saying, can we move this money so we can get 0.05 versus 0.01? So I think Loretta knows her job and knows how to do it, and there are assumptions, but like she said, you can't,
You're looking at me, I agree with you.
so you can't make the, so like she said, Union Springs, like you get caught in a real pickle if all of a sudden you have a bunch of students that have needs and you have to pay for them, and you could easily hit that $300,000, $400,000.
I'm not proposing that it go that tight. I was just, since we were over, our margin was
I
quite
just
large
think,
last year. That's
Heather,
all
that
I
that's
was
longer
asking.
term
Yeah,
kind of
that's
changes.
fine, we don't have to talk about it.
It's so hard, it's so hard. I don't think anybody today could predict what fuel
No,
prices are gonna be and electricity prices. We were on a contract before that was very favorable, and that expired, and I forget what, I think our electricity here doubled or whatever. Well,
No, it's been, the electricity bills has been crazy.
so, but April last year, you couldn't predict what the electricity price was gonna be in April of this year.
I know.
So,
I think we all agree on that, Dave.
so I think we have to say, well, the budget is as well-oiled as we can get it without getting caught, because we can't get at the end of the year and say, oh geez, we got this thing so tight, we're 200,000 short, and we have this savings account, we're just gonna grab 200,000 out of the unassigned fund balance. We cannot do that. That 741 is up to that amount. So we can't go grab 200,000 if we're short, so that's why there's always that
I understand.
that buffer.
I understand.
Well said, Dave, we have a motion and a second. Can we vote on that? Yeah.
Right, all those in favor of 5.5% and whatever the other thing is.
What's the other thing?
I tried to guess it up in the appropriated fund.
I'd go for 5.25.
We said that and nobody did it.
She's compromised.
I have compromised. Have I compromised the most of anyone here tonight?
No.
I started at 4.
I voted all over the place.
Started a secret.
I voted yes to those.
I voted yes for all of them.
You have, you have.
We never voted on 7.
I'm not, I mean, you can, but I'm not going to vote.
We can put in 7, make a motion.
We did. He made the motion, the very first motion to do what the committee said, and we voted on it.
Oh, I thought he said we do one.
So how does Thursday look? At 6
Great.
o'clock?
Because we're
Well, I mean, what else? Are we gonna have to revisit one? Do I make another motion at 5.5? Somebody change their mind?
Meet in the middle.
I forgot what the middle is.
5.25.
5.45, 5.37. My my sweet spot was
Okay, I'll make a
My sweet
motion.
spot was 5, and I'm willing to go up to 5.5. I think it's the number, I think it's what people will hear and what people don't understand all of the background and everything else.
I agree with you,
I
Rachel,
think
and
it
I think
makes-
5 sounds like a lot.
I think 5 sounds like a lot.
I think anything under 5 would be like easier, a
Right.
lot easier to sell. Even if it's just 1 cup of coffee.
Can you do your 5 1/4?
You already did it, we're gonna go back to
No.
it.
Just
I make a motion to put 5 1/4 back on the table.
Okay, I'll second.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes 5
There we go.
to 2.
I feel like breaking out the champagne.
Motion to adjourn.
No.
Oh. Do I have to fill this in?
I have the number.
Okay. So please amend the agenda to include the addendum. So motion, can I get a motion to amend the agenda to put this proposition for the budget on the agenda tonight?
So moved.
Rob.
Second.
So this is to amend it, and then, who seconded it?
Either Janet or myself.
So, yeah, which was, this was to amend the agenda, and then Rob and, do I get Rob to vote? No, I'm just trying to do this. There's no that. And then, can I get a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Matt,
Looking for a second.
looking for a second.
Yes.
All those in favor to approve the agenda as amended to add this? 7-0. Alright. This goes here. All right.
5-2.
5.25%. So, we've amended the agenda to include the 2025-26 proposed budget. Be it resolved that the SCCS Board of Education, on the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools and the Budget Committee, hereby adopts a resolution for a budget proposition to be included on the May 20th, 2025 ballot. Shall the following resolution be adopted to wit, resolved that the Board of Education of the Southern Cayuga Central School District, counties of Cayuga and Tompkins, New York, be and hereby is authorized to expend the sum of $20,974,836 and levy the necessary tax therefore for the 2025-26 school year. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
A second? Second. All those in favor? Right, the property, is this the percentage?
Just property tax.
So, be it resolved that the SCCS Board of Education, on the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools and the Budget Committee, hereby approves a resolution for the annual New York State Property Tax Report Card modified to reflect the 25-26 budget as adopted to be submitted to the NICED by the required deadline. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Is that me? All those in favor? Right. Resolution for the Aurora Free Library. Be it resolved upon the request of the President of the Aurora Free Library Board of Trustees in accordance with a resolution adopted by the Board of Trustees on or about October 17th, 2024, and in accordance with the New York State Education Law, Section 2259, the following proposition shall appear on the ballot at the school district's annual meeting and general election on May 20th, 2025. Let's read the whole thing. I get a motion?
So moved.
All those in favor? And same for the Hazard Library Association. Be it resolved upon the request of the librarian of the Hazard Library Association in accordance with the resolution adopted by the Board of Trustees on or about November 11th, 2024, and in accordance with New York State Education Law, Section 259, the following propositions shall appear on the ballot of the school district's annual meeting and general election on May 20th, 2025. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
All those in favor? Motion passes 7-0. All right. Is that yours? Okay, okay.
If there's nothing else, we'll make a motion to
Okay.
adjourn.
Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So
tonight's
moved.
meeting? Is that Matt and Dave? Well, thank you, everybody. I hope we can, we'll be friends after this.
Sure.